partner in Meru, whereby the county bought a cooler of 20,000. We did the construction, and we are owning it. Immediately it is launched, we are going to put milk, and that's all. The only challenge you have had before is where, and sorry my colleagues in the politics, because the MPs and the leaders and an issue with the location, where they want it put, and where as a businessman now we want it put, are not ending up. So that's why we're having some coolers which are idle, yet I'm picking warm milk. I can't use it because it's not helping me in terms of logistic and the cost involved. So if you involve the processors, sir, to locate the coolers, I can guarantee you 100% usage of the coolers. Yes, sir.
So I think, Waziri, you are hearing what they are saying. And so in the next rollout, let us bring the processors on board so that we locate where it makes the most commercial sense to everybody, including the farmers. And I think we should involve the farmers also in that exercise, so that we find the best, the most suitable location for locating these facilities. There was one final question I wanted to know, and I hope my people here are taking notes so that we can go back and synthesize what we are saying. I know you have said that you are willing to partner with us.
Yes, sir.
But as you can see, we are the ones investing in your business.
True, sir.
You know, we are investing in your business. All this cold chain facility, we have no processor ourselves. It's you who have the processors. This should actually be your investment. You should be the ones investing in the whole chain, but we are supporting.
True, sir.
So what is your contribution? Because
but you are also you, sir. We are also your children. We are part of this country, and the work we are doing, we are supporting in many ways. We are employing people. We are paying taxes, pay as you earn, all those, just to make sure that this country of ours is moving forward the way you are just pushing.
All right.
I'm very happy.
The latter gentleman, thank you very much for your candid answers.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and all protocols observed. I just wanted to share with you a story, Your Excellency. So I represent LATO, and we are the first company, I'm Kenyan, and we are currently, so Your Excellency, we are currently present in 15 countries exporting from Uganda, and we've also now invested in Kenya. So we just wanted to share you the journey of how we made it successful in Uganda and how we can also make it successful in Kenya, right? So you touched on the right points about how do we help the farmers, the small-scale farmers. Some of the things that we've been doing is the biggest issue that the farmer has is money. A lot of training can be done for the farmers. They all know what needs to be done. They need to feed the cow. They need feed. They know that the weather is very predictable, but nobody's storing silage for the dry weather. So when it comes to smallholder farmers, the thing that we need to do the most is actually how do we provide affordable finance to the farmers at realistic interest rates so that they can invest for silage and for the cows to manage the seasonality, which is the biggest issue on the farms. The second issue that we work with farms is now we've started growing maize of our own, and with better, because when it comes to what you mentioned, that other people are growing maize and they're trying to sell to dairy farmers, there's always a margin that the other person wants to make. But if a processor is the one who grows the maize, he can always make it up in the milk business. So there's more incentive if a processor is directly involved in the growing of fodder and silage, because that's when we can always balance off the upside in the milk profits with that. The third thing is regarding exports. I think people need to kind of realize about how milk is exported, right? So milk can either be exported in liquid form or in powder form. Liquid can only go to your immediate neighbor, right? And if you look at the immediate neighbors that we have of Kenya, they're not really drinking a lot of liquid milk. So effectively, if Kenya wants to have a meaningful export of milk, it has to be in the form of either cheese or in the form of powder. Now, these are the only two products which can then travel distances, whether we're talking of West Africa, Algeria, and so on. Now, when you go to these markets, it's very difficult to just trade it purely. So for example, if I'm a producer in Kenya and I produce a bag of powder, the customer in Congo has options of buying from New Zealand and from Kenya. Why will he buy the Kenyan one, right? And so effectively what tends to happen is you start getting an African discount, right? And that further puts pressure on the cost that you need to get to sell in those markets. Now, generally what happens with companies such that have done it successfully globally is that not only do they have production in Kenya, but they go and set up distribution in these markets. That's what we've done at Ruto. So all these 15 countries we sell to, not only do we just dump the products there, but we also go and build a brand there and invest in marketing so that you link the farmer to the end consumer. If the minute you have intermediaries in the channel, you will not be competitive. It's more like the fuel business, where the petrol stations they own the petrol station and they also own the oil that they're producing. So the issue of if Kenya wants to become an exporter of powder, then it has to fix cost of production. They've discussed here numbers of we are at 760 and Uganda is at 500 and something, and globally. So globally, the price of powder has averaged $4,000 a ton. So for us to even get to, right now it's at $2,500 because of the oversupply, but 10-year average is $4,000 a ton. So if we look at $4,000 a ton, we would need prices in the range between of 30 and 40 shillings for you to even do a powder business. And if you want to get to that price point, you need to remove intermediaries for the farmer. Because the minute we have so many suppliers supplying the farmer, then the cost will always go up. And the only way you can do that is that if the farmer starts doing majority of the inputs on farm. Now, globally, there are 3 or 4 countries which control more than 60% of global exports. These are Ireland, New Zealand, and basically what they have is that 90% of the farming is pasture-based. So if we promote our farmers to go more intensive, we are going to breach that 35 shilling cost of production. We need to teach our farmers to go less intensive. That's what's happening in Uganda. They don't have any supplementary feed. There is no concentrate. There is no animal feed. They only feed the cow what's available in the shamba. So effectively, if we want the dairy sector to grow, the growth has to be sustainable. If we're going to grow it at paying 50 shillings and buying external fodder and external concentrates, it's not sustainable. The other issue which we've had in the market, Your Excellency, is that malnutrition is a big issue in the region. 30% of our children are stunted. Milk is the solution. They're saying the population of East Africa is going to double in the next 10 years. 30% of that children, if they're going to be stunted, what are we growing? What are we bringing into this, to this world? And milk is the solution for it. So milk consumption is important that we encourage milk consumption. But the challenge we're facing right now is that as we increase the price, like with the minimum pricing of milk going up, most of the processors' sales have gone down in the past 2 years. So increasing the price to support the farmer is not sustainable because the consumer, on the other hand, who are 50 million versus the 5 million, are now reducing milk, and then malnutrition is going up. So at the end of the day, everything comes back down to productivity and the cost of the farm. Now, so I think we've spoken a lot of things here. If one FX from the milk, it has to go, the milk price has to start coming down, and the farmer's cost has to start coming down. And then you need to get into the powder business. If we want to, we still have a very big domestic market, but for that, we need the price of milk actually for consumers to start going down. And then we've got certain products like, fermented products, mala and yogurts and flavored milk. I sell both in Uganda and Kenya. Statistically, Uganda now drinks more flavored milk than Kenya. which would shock all of you, but it does, right? And the simple reason is Uganda doesn't have any VAT on flavored milk, which is good for the nutrition of the children. In Kenya, we've got the VAT, which is 16%. So a mother will basically say, I'd rather just give chai, which I have to just mix the ingredients at home myself, than give flavored milk to my kid, because it becomes only a product for the rich, not for the bottom and the middle class. So this is just a few comments, Your Excellency, and we are here to support your processes. We believe that the East African community, because we work in East Africa, that we can feed the whole of Africa. There's around $5 billion of imports of dairy in Africa, 5 billion. If you look at the cows that we've got between Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda, and we combine the strength of these three countries, and we start working on the cost of production, we can actually take over more than $2 billion of imports that the African continent has. Algeria does 1.2 billion alone of imports. But again, they have the option of importing from New Zealand and from Europe. So we would always need to be at the same price. And it will all work, and I fully agree with you. It all starts with how we as processors and government start at the farm. And if we can get the cost at the farm right, we can then conquer the continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you allow me to ask you one or two?
Please.
So, of course, you know where we are. 84% of Kenya is arid and semi-arid. So pasture is a challenge, so we have the only, and that's why we are having a conversation about feed, because it's the only option that's available to us. So the reality is we do not have as much pasture as Uganda, because our area of operation is limited. What you have said, which I thought was useful, is how do processors make it their business also to bulk feed, to supply to the dairy farmers. Is that a consideration? I think processors should be able to exercise their minds. They have much more latitude. They have much more access to capital than individual farmers. The farmer of 1 acre, 2 cows, 3 cows, doesn't have the kind of muscle that you can master. The same way we are investing in milk cool chain facility. Is it possible for processors to consider also investing in the food chain, the feed, so that we are all trying to assist the farmer to remove the middle guys, because he's buying one set of feed from one person who is making a margin, another person is making a margin, another guy is making a margin, and sometimes he's not even buying from the producer himself, he's buying from a middleman, and that's how he ends up with the short end of the stick. Is it the case that even processors can also consider how they can work with farmers? I think the same thing Kenneth was saying, that in Meru, they are thinking of running a feed mill to see how they can support their farmers. Is that something?
It actually works globally that way in many countries, and we would be doing the same in Kenya as we're ramping up our collection centers. So the coolers that you're giving us, they normally come, you need to build a building around it. And the idea now is that how do you convert the coolers to become shops so that it is a two-way traffic rather than just one-way traffic. And so effectively the coolers then would have feed and inputs that then the farmers can batter against the milk, and then processors would then take the responsibility for providing those inputs at a lower price. That's what works globally, and that's what we would suggest we implement in Kenya as well. As we get the coolers from government, we manage and provide feed and other items at cost, sometimes even with a subsidy. Because at the end of the day, if you know that you're going to make back the money on the volume, then subsidies are not a challenge for business people.
I think that should have been an occasion for the processors to stand again, to agree
Yeah.
that they will they will support the farmers with the feed, you know. And I think we can then facilitate and make sure that the milk coolers we are setting up with the support of the county governments, we also improve the facilities around it so that you can also get feed from this facility, maybe even get some acaricides and some of the vaccines, and make the whole ecosystem work for the farmer, because ultimately it's important.
Yeah.
Sindio? Okay, I think we are running short of time. Can we have a lady processor to say something? Natakamani, yeah.
Thank you, Amit. Your Excellency, we have Emma Karue from Aspendo's milk processor. So.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, our governors, CS and PS. Good afternoon. My name is Emma Karue from Aspendo's Dairy, and I'm here to present some interventions on behalf of the dairy sector, which can stimulate the industry. First of all, thank you very much for these wonderful sessions and for including processors. We want to confirm to you that we are committed to ensure that the dairy sector is going to be one of the leading economic drivers for our people, to make sure that we have solutions for our own people. The first thing that we wanted us to discuss is about taxation. We've discussed in length about the cost to the farmers, but I also feel that we need to look at why is milk consumption in Kenya going down. We can produce a lot of milk. Kenya at the moment is the leading consumer of milk in East Africa. We find milk from Uganda is coming to Kenya. Everybody's trying to come to Kenya. But our consumption, per capita consumption in Kenya, has gone down by 30%. So our proposal is we consider looking at fiscal measures that can reduce the consumption, the cost of production for the processor. The first one is taxation on packaging materials. It's very expensive. Can we look at reducing the tax on packaging materials? Can we consider that? Can we consider the taxation that we have when we are bringing equipment from outside the country? At the moment, all the equipment from the dairy sector have to come from outside the country. We find the tax regimes very expensive, and we can consider zero rating that. The second one, we've discussed at length about the El Nino that's coming up and how we can assimilate the milk. Our proposal is the establishment of a dairy fund that would be able to cushion our dairy farmers. Yes, we are willing to take the milk, but for now, the consumption per consumer is very low. So as my colleague, Mr. Gitonga, commented to you, we might take the milk and we are not able to sell the milk out. Are we able to convert that milk into milk powder? And is that milk available to private processors for us to be able to do that? That may be done by the local processors. At the moment, we only have 2 who have the capacity for milk powder. We can look at that in terms of El Nino, because it's a short-term thing that we need to look at quickly. The second thing, we want to thank you, Your Excellency, for including the private sector on the allocation of coolers. This is the first time. It's never happened before. So we want to commit to you as private sector that the coolers that are allocated to the private sector, we are going to ensure that they make the lives of our farmers easier, so that farmers do not need to wake up at night, late at night, to take their milk to the collection sector. So that's a big plus, and we want to thank you for that. On the consolidation fund, commodity fund that you've told us about, we want to reassure you once again that we are going to ensure that we get the money from you and we pay it back. So thank you very much. And what that is going to do is going to assist us to purchase milk products and make sure that we can store that and sell it at a later date. We also want to thank you for the measures that you've put in place to protect our industry. The truth is, I don't know that the processors have said that, our milk is very expensive. We cannot compete with Uganda. We cannot compete with milk coming from outside the country. We start at an unfair level playing ground. Uganda will purchase milk at 25 shillings. We are purchasing milk in Muranga for 50 shillings at the moment. So once we purchase that and process it and take it to the market, we are not able to effectively control that. So we believe that with the measures that you're putting in place, especially on animal feeds, if the cost of production can go down for the farmer and the cost of production goes down for the processors, then that is the recipe that is going to stimulate the dairy sector. So we thank you for that. Now, the second thing that we wanted to talk about is export market. We thank you so much, because one of the biggest issues that Kenya is not able to export our milk is phytosanitary measures. The coolers are going to increase the quality of our milk because the bacterial load of our milk is going to go down. So with that coming up, we are looking at maybe in about a year or two, we should be able to export our milk outside. Now we have non-tariff barriers that sometimes are imposed by other countries, and we find that we have milk, but we are not able to export it outside the country. On top of that, if we can reduce the cost to below the ground, to below the global market, then we should be able to sell our milk outside the country. So we are also requesting for an establishment of a dairy fund and a 1.5 billion through the Kenya Daily Board to be able to assist in mopping up of the milk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So can we have a summary of this? Thank you very much, Madam Karwe. I think we need a summary of this in the interest of time. And maybe I could help try and come up with a summary. Okay, you can relax. So I think this is a very good conversation. I know we haven't quite taken this conversation to an outcome. We have brought all the ideas together. And having this conversation confirms to me that we have all the knowledge and expertise that can help us sort out the challenges we have in this industry so that we can achieve our intention as a country of using the dairy sector to drive our economy, create jobs, increase incomes, and also enhance our revenue. What I'm thinking is we therefore need a final meeting. David, I think you need to facilitate with the minister a final meeting on what is it that government will do and what is it that processors will do. The aim being we reduce the cost of production. We support the farmers to reduce the cost of production so that they can make a better margin, but also open up opportunities for us to get more value from our milk by making sure that we have good quality milk that then can go into products that are added value, that gives us more revenue to both the processors and to the country, and also give us the opportunity to tap into the $2 billion market, the good gentleman said there, of exports that come into our continent. If we have to access, and we should, because if we are the highest producer of milk in the continent, we should claim the biggest share of the continental market. So how do we achieve that with our current setup? We are not a very cheap producing country, but we can compensate that by making our milk to be high quality. Yeah, we can compensate that. If we make it to be high quality, then we can make high quality products, and we can make more high value added products, and then we can access the bigger continental market. So we need a balance of where we are and where we need to go. So can I then ask Waziri that you provide the leadership for us to put this together? Maybe I can give you a week, 2 weeks to sit down with these processors, because I want a 10-point implementation plan, itemized and with the timelines of what do we do by when, what do we do by when, and which other stakeholders do we bring on board. So in 2 weeks' time, Comptroller, you put it in my diary, in 2 weeks' time, we have a meeting to report on the meetings that will now be held, so that we know what incentives does government need to put in place for local production of packaging material? What tax incentives do we need to put in place to remove some of the bottlenecks that are in the industry? Even as we wait for the local production, are there tax issues? I remember we removed tax on packaging material for tea. We could consider the same for milk, if it helps. If it helps to increase the margin, especially for farmers. You know, those are my biggest employers, so I have to. And they are not sitting here. I am their representative here. So if that is a space, and then I need my team to find out what does that mean in terms of the ultimate price we are paying. And many of the other issues that you have said, how do we bring you, the processors, to assist us in bringing down the cost of feed? How do you engage in bulking feed? And how do we use the incentives that we have put, including removing duty on yellow maize? How do we make sure that the benefit ultimately goes to the producers? It doesn't end with the feed manufacturers somewhere in the middle. So I think these are issues, and I am willing to invest. This is a big sector. I am willing to invest public resources if it ultimately gives us a competitive sector that not only increases our incomes as a nation, but also promotes our exports and gives opportunity for many young people to work in this industry and the whole value chain around dairy. Can we leave it there? So 2 weeks, we come back and have a final meeting, sign off, and see who does what. I personally I will do my part. And I have it on the authority of everybody here that they will do theirs. Sindio? Asanteni sana.